No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. We're going all the way so you can score more for your trade-in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV today. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Good morning, Boise State fans. A happy Monday. Welcome on into Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com. We've got 45 minutes to talk about the net rankings being released in basketball today, Mike Prater.
Nice. Can't wait for that.
I couldn't even get a chuckle out of Mike Prater on a Monday morning. No, we have a ton of big stuff to get to today. It's UNLV week, Mountain West Championship game, and if we're calling it one of the biggest games in the history of this program, this is one of the biggest weeks in the history of this football program as we count down the days till Friday, 6 o'clock kickoff. Boise State, UNLV, the winner goes to the college football playoff, and so many different angles, layers to discuss. You got the Ashton Jeanty Heisman, campaign gets one final push on Friday night. You got there's just so many layers to this. The rankings coming out tomorrow. How high can Boise State get if they get past? Can they somehow get to the 8 line and get a home game? All kinds of probably unrealistic, but at least possible scenarios out there with teams winning and losing and what's going to happen tomorrow night. And as I said, we got Mike Prater with us on a Monday to help break it down. KTIK, The Ticket, hosts 3 to 6, writes some columns for BNN. You know him, you love him. Mike Prater, happy Monday, sir.
What's going on, BJ? It is a big weekend. You wake up on Monday and you kind of feel it. If something happening on Friday, you feel it on Monday. And I know it's kind of a crazy, gloomy, foggy, misty kind of day out there, but there's a lot of bright sunshine flowing on Boise State football right now. And these next 5 days, actually these next 7 days, because I know it all leads up to what could be a big day on Sunday for this football program. Let's get after it. I can't wait for this week.
Someone asking about the press conferences. They are the normal time today at noon. So noon today will be the normal time for Spencer Danielson, Dirk Cutter, Eric Chenander. It's pretty much business as usual for Boise State in terms of what it would be for a Friday game. We'll stream that press conference live on Bronco Nation News YouTube channel at noon. We'll have player interviews tomorrow, assistant coach interviews on Wednesday, a special 3 o'clock press conference on Thursday with Barry Odum and Spencer Danielson and the commissioner of the Mountain West, Gloria Navarez, and some players and pictures with the trophy and all that stuff. And then Friday night at 6 o'clock or 6:04, we'll get it on the Blue and hyperbole, prisoner of the moment, whatever. I think it's easy. I don't think there's even debate, Mike Prater, in terms of biggest game on the Blue. I personally think you can make a strong argument it's the biggest game ever for Boise State. I know people want to point to that first Fiesta Bowl. I just don't know at the time if you knew what that first Fiesta Bowl was going to do for the next 2 decades of the program. Certainly looking back at it, biggest win. Yeah, you could probably say that was certainly probably the biggest win. But going into the game, what it means, probably a bye, getting to the final 8 of the tournament, the $7-8 million that would come with that. Your whole goal is to win a national championship, and you'd be in the field of 12 and likely in the field of 8 if you win on Friday nights. I know the Fiesta Bowl was a huge win, but that was just I hate to say it, but a bowl game. It meant nothing other than that's not the right way to phrase it. It meant a ton, obviously, but in terms of what it meant after that game, in terms of being alive for a national championship, it wasn't it. So I'm not going to say people are wrong. Let's say the first Fiesta Bowl. I definitely don't think the second or third Fiesta Bowl is bigger than this. If you want to go first Fiesta Bowl, I'll take that. But I think it's, if not that one, it's top 2 or 3 games ever. And you could go further, Mike Prater. You know the state of Idaho bigger than me. I don't know if Idaho State, any other College of Idaho, any other game or team in this state has had a game as big and with implications on Friday. I think you could go a step further and say this is the biggest game to ever be played in the history of the state of Idaho.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. And we could sit here and fight over words and everything, but 100% accurate in terms of what you said. In order to clean it up, because there are people that bring up that Fiesta Bowl as they should. They should never forget that, and that should always be the standard. But for me, it's about the biggest opportunity. And so I've stopped using the biggest game. It's the biggest opportunity because there was opportunities here. I mean, against TCU on the Blue with the chance to go play in some big-time bowl games. That didn't work out for Boise State. Obviously, with opportunities in Nevada with Rose Bowls on the line, that was a massive opportunity for Boise State to go to a Rose Bowl. Are you kidding me? So that was an opportunity that didn't quite work out. The Fiesta Bowl was a great opportunity at the time, but I think we had our head in the sand with just so much happiness that Boise State was going to play Oklahoma in a Fiesta Bowl that we never really talked about the opportunity going in. We just kind of went in thinking, I hope this works out. We're kind of clenching our fingernails, and then all of a sudden Boise State wins that game, and it is the biggest victory, the biggest game in Boise State history. So I'm going to spend this week just talking about the biggest opportunity. This is bigger than a Fiesta Bowl in terms of an opportunity. This is bigger than a Rose Bowl or any other kind of CFP, BCS nonsense that Boise State's chased in the past. So the opportunity is amazing. You throw in the Heisman, you throw in the CFP, you throw in the seed, you throw in the cash, and it's clean cut. Winner takes all. It's a beautiful opportunity. It's the biggest opportunity in Boise State football, and it's probably, as you said, I never thought of it this way, statewide, it's the biggest opportunity for any sporting event in this state. I know Boise State's played for a couple of national championships. Idaho State's played for a couple, or at least one national championship. But CSI basketball's won national championships. Those were great moments. Those were great games. This is the biggest opportunity.
Yeah, I wonder about like games actually played in the state of Idaho, though, too. If this would be the biggest single game importance, however you want to phrase it, that was played on the soil within the state limits. I mean, yeah, you could play national championships in other states, whatever, but I just wonder for in the state of Idaho, and let's be honest, it's not like it has a huge, rich tradition of 100 years of big time sports being played here, but we like to twist words and things and do whatever we can. It's a monumental game. We'll get into it. I do want to go ahead and screenshot this, folks, if you want to. It doesn't happen very often. Trailblazer saying you're 100% correct, BJ. So just wanted to make sure I got that. Out there.
If I could get one of those, it'd make my day. Come on, man. Come on.
Steve says the Fiesta Bowl broke the ceiling for the other group of 5 teams, which it did.
Well, come on. Utah went to the Fiesta Bowl a couple years before that and won. Now, the dramatics of Boise State's victory, completely unprecedented all over the place, but it didn't break the ceiling. I'm going to fight over that one.
No doubt. But we got here based on the, let's go back before we go forward, the 34-18 win over Oregon State on Friday for Boise State. And it was a fun day. It was a little cold, Mike Prater, but it was sunny. It was bright. It was perfect. The crowd was full and into it. And I thought for a final regular season game, I know the stats don't necessarily show it in some areas. I thought there was progress for Boise State. And Brad Bedell and Kent Riddle both talked about that on the post-game show. Like the other couple games maybe weren't quite as pretty. This one, maybe the final margin doesn't look as pretty. Some of the individual Maddux Madsen passing stats maybe don't look quite as pretty. But in just the feeling leaving that game, I think is better than the previous couple of games, because Boise State dominated that game. I mean, if not for that Ashton Jeanty fumble at the 10-yard line, you're up 21-0. You look at some of the other stats as well. I mean, I never thought Boise State was not in control of that game, and they kind of messed around in the second half a little bit and let Oregon State close the gap. But I thought leaving that game, I felt personally better about Boise State than I had the previous couple of games.
Yeah, I didn't feel worse, and Boise State has played games where you leave going, I'm not sure how I feel about that victory or whatever. But yeah, Boise State did what it had to do. You're right. They were never in, Oregon State never was a serious threat, at least in my opinion, anytime during that football game. Boise State's kind of what it is over the last month. They've been kind of very consistent, and that's good, but it's also bad because it's not great football. They're not playing their best football right now, and that scares me a lot. Outside of that 42-7 run against San Jose State for a month, this football team has just been doing enough, and that's okay. It's November, it's crunch time. Now it's December, and crunch time becomes even more critical. Watching the UNLV game the other night, I thought that they played pretty well, but they didn't play great all consistently the entire game. They were kind of up and down, but they certainly looked scary in that football game, and I think this is going to be a wonderful matchup. Boise State's probably going to have to play. And, even going back to that game in Vegas, when we were all there in that game in Vegas, Boise State didn't look great in that game. They figured out a way to win it, so maybe they got that DNA, maybe they got that moxie just to win a football game, and maybe they don't have to be pretty.
Maddux Madsen, I thought, was better than his numbers showed. 17 of 33 passing. That might be the most relatable, I guess, to what you saw versus the stats. I mean, he had a couple of really nice passes. Cam Camper dropped in touchdown, tried to one-hand another one on a perfect throw. Austin Bolt dropped one. There was a couple other drops. I mean, I thought overall, if one of those Maddux Madsen to Capel or Camper passes is complete, all of a sudden he's got 3 touchdowns and 240 yards or whatever, and it's a lot different. But he goes 17 of 33, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know the completion percentage, again, only 52%, but I rewatched the game last night, Mike Prater. I thought he made a lot of really nice throws, and I thought that was an encouraging game, even despite some of the raw numbers for Maddux Madsen.
Yeah, and again, it comes back for Maddux Madsen. The key to his game, the part of the game that people don't really ignore is the cleanness. Again, no sacks? And I was just checking. I don't believe there was a sack. There may have been one, but I think there were 0 sacks. Certainly no interceptions. As long as he keeps playing clean football, I don't care if his passing percentage is 45%, 55%, 75%. You keep it clean. You get first downs, and the first down numbers in this game were absolutely there was a lot of them. How many 28 first downs compared to 13 for Oregon State. So they were moving the ball at times. I got no problem with the way Maddux Madsen played. At this point, he kind of is who he is. He's never going to be great. He's never going to be flashy when it comes to those kinds of stats. But as long as you're clean, baby, I just need a clean football game, and that's what he did again on Friday night. Yeah,
and again, wasn't the style points victory that some were hoping for? I'm not even sure they covered the spread. They won by 16. I think it was a little higher than that, but You got through the game, you won, and now that stuff's kind of out the window, the style points and all that. All these teams that keep losing, it's just like, as somebody said in there, just win, baby, at this point, and that's certainly going to be the case on Friday night. And we'll get into UNLV and the matchup, and I got some numbers and all that. But Ashton Jeanty finishing his regular season, 226 yards, had at least 2 20-plus yard runs called back due to penalties. So the numbers could have been even better. But he is now within 341 yards of Barry Sanders' record. He's got 28 rushing touchdowns, over 2,000 yards rushing, 2,200 yards rushing. He continues to kind of push forward near, and that is one of the storylines, side stories, whatever you want to call it. It's not a side story, it's a big story, but one of the secondary stories to the game itself, and who wins is Ashton Jeanty. And the way it worked out, Travis Hunter sitting at home this weekend, Ashton Jeanty, and in the premier game, I know there's 2 other games that night on Friday. There's 2 other conference championship games, but they're both group of 5 games. I think 70 to 70. If you're watching a college football game and you're not a fan of one of the other 4 teams playing, I would guess 75 to 80% are watching the Boise State UNLV game on Fox. They're going to have a massive TV audience, massive, at least college football audience on this game. And it's one. I know the Heisman Trophy voting started today. Folks can start today as of right now and go and put their vote into the system. But it's not due, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike Prater, until Sunday or Monday. Ashton Jeanty gets the final say, and it's a long shot. I know it's likely not happening, but he does get the final say here in terms of what he could do Friday night.
Yeah, he does, and I wouldn't want to be the competition if I'm Ashton Jeanty out there with one final say. And as part of the BNN column I wrote over the weekend talking about the Barry Sanders record and what kind of a statement that would make. Yeah, the Tulane Army game on ABC is going to be a decent one for viewers, but Ashton Jeanty's probably going to get the biggest amount of numbers, the biggest eyeballs in terms of the Fox appearance on Friday night. And if he can go out there and get 341 yards in a championship game, that's going to be a massive statement. Now, I think that's a little bit unrealistic, but anything's possible with Ashton Jeanty. I wrote Friday night that I thought the Heisman Trophy race was over. I was just predicting the fact that Travis Hunter's got such a big advantage right now that it's almost going to be impossible. But there is a puncher's chance for Ashton Jeanty. Now, he had his worst performance against UNLV, not so much in yards, but only 3.9 yards per carry. That was the first game he showed up a little banged up. We all saw him pregame with a little wrap on his left wrist. And then after the first drive, after the first series, he goes into the tent and he comes out with that big giant brace on his left arm that has been hampering for the last month. But he still managed about 3.94 yards per carry and had a decent game, 125, 6-7 yards. So you know what? Again, UNLV is going to come after him. Jackson Woodard's going to come after him. They're going to target him and try to stop him. And it's going to be very, very, very difficult for him to get 341 yards. But can you imagine if he did that, what kind of statement that would make? That would be one of the greatest performances in the history of college football if he ran for 341 on Friday night on national television in a championship game and put himself back into the Heisman race.
341 would be insane. I'd take 200 again in this game. But yeah, if he got to 341, that might be enough. That might be the one way he could do it if you're trying to find one way. And I think we both agree, Mike Prater, that the results are going to be closer than the Vegas odds are. Yes. Travis Hunter, and we both get chastised when we say it's over. I'm not necessarily saying it should be over. I'm just saying it is. Unfortunately, with the social media love and everything else, the gambling odds, it's just Travis Hunter looks like he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying I would vote for him if I had a vote. I'm not. The words get kind of twisted a little bit. Johnny put out some tweet, and I was just after my appearance on your guys' show on Friday, and I was just getting blasted. It's just the reality of the situation. It looks like there's not enough. It's just the way it is. But if he were to go rush for break Barry Sanders' record on national TV, that would certainly be big. And it's pretty cool that the Big Noon Kickoff crew is coming to Boise. This is the only, we wanted them to come earlier in the season for the Nevada game. And obviously this isn't the same as the 2-hour morning show, but in a way it's better. You're not competing with College Game Day for an hour. It's just a 1-hour love fest of everybody wanting to watch at 7 p.m. Eastern to get ready for this game. And somebody's asking where they'll be set up. They will be on the blue. They're not going to be in front of the stadium since it's only an hour before kickoff. And my understanding is they'll be set up in the corner by the Hall of Fame. There's the most area there. So then they'll be shooting back to the field, to the foothills, that way. But they'll be in the corner by the Hall of Fame. They'll be on live from 5 until 6. So pretty a nice little wrinkle to this. And kudos to Fox. If they have the deal with the Mountain West, and that they could have easily just had Chris Peterson or these guys in the studio and saved a lot of money, whatever. But this is the only conference championship game that Fox has this year. They do not have the Big Ten game because that's on CBS. So it's their only conference championship game. I'm sure a good chunk of that show, they'll be previewing all the other games. They're not just going to talk about Boise State for an hour, but it's a pretty cool deal and adds a layer to this, and certainly doesn't help the Ashton Jeanty hype train that these guys are going to be watching him from the sidelines on Friday night.
Oh, I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's really, really cool. So I thought that was a pretty awesome announcement over the weekend. We're going to try to, I know you're probably going to try to get into this a little bit. We've put out some interview requests and trying to get some of those guys, and it'll be a lot of fun. It does add another cool element, and that's never really happened. Obviously, ESPN's College Game Day was here early in the morning from the middle of the blue turf. Big, giant crowd, but this is going to be right up until that game time, and it's going to be really cool. And I was told as well that was going to be where they're going to be located. The only thing about that is there probably won't be any fans behind them, but you're going to be able to see the blue. You're going to be able to see the foothills. You're going to be able to see the Blameyer complex, and it's going to be a really cool visual, just in terms of crowds and getting people involved. There'll be some fans roaming around an hour before the game right there. So I think it's going to be really cool. Idaho Sports Talk is going to try to do its show. Well, we're doing our show from the stadium as well on Friday from 3 to 5. We're warming up the Fox crew, and I know you're going to have your pregame show right there in the same area. It's going to be festive, BJ. There's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope people are getting Friday off. Take the day off, write a note to your boss, write a note to your family. You should wake up in the morning, and Friday should be a celebration of college football. The things that are happening on Friday have never happened before in Boise, Idaho. This is going to be one special day.
Yeah, and I hate to say we're going to be competing against each other on Friday, but we will, Mike Prater. BNN will be live on the Blue as well at 3 o'clock on Friday. So we're going to have Brad Bedell, Kent Riddle in the stadium on the Blue, Winston Venable, Jerron Johnson, a lot of other former players are going to be in town stopping by. It's going to be awesome. A lot of interviews, a lot of things that you'll be having. So hopefully folks will go back and forth and listen to your show and watch part of our show and go back and forth. But we have to be from inside the stadium. We have to be off the air. And I didn't really want to compete with Fox anyway, but we have to be off the air when the Fox show goes on we have to be off about 4:45. So we're going to start our pregame show at 3 o'clock. We will be on the Blue on Friday. So hopefully folks will, like I said, go back and forth. I'm sure Jay Tust will have a pregame show as well. We'll have ours. KTIK will be live. So you'll have all kinds of places and ways to get ready for this game on Friday night. And I think the whole, Big Noon Kickoff group being in town is going to be really cool. I would assume usually the day before they come, there's all kinds of media opportunities with them as they're setting their stage up on Thursday and stuff. We have the press conference Thursday as well, Mike Prater. So all week, it's just going to be and I am. We've got various guests different days talking UNLV, and we've reached out to, as I'm sure you have as well, Brock Heward and Jason Benetti on the call, and Matt Leinert and some of the other folks. So we're all trying to do, but it's going to be, if you're a Boise State fan, Friday at 6 o'clock, man, it's going to be a long week to get to Friday at 6 o'clock, but it's going to be a fun week and a lot going on. And as we said, it is the biggest, one of the I don't think you can be wrong if you say one of the biggest. Nobody can argue with that. Games in the history of this football program, and you think what's on the line now for UNLV too, with Tulane losing, it just added another layer to this, Mike Prater, where UNLV comes up here, and if they win, they're going to the playoff too.
That's crazy talk. The way it's shaking out. So I love this college football playoff format. It's really, really cool. It was awesome over the weekend with so many CFP implications and so many things on the line. And what a great weekend of college football. 3 games on Friday night coming up, and then a whole big day on Saturday, including, the Boise State-Washington State game on this Saturday. So what a wonderful celebration of college sports over these next couple of days. And if Boise State wins on Friday, then there's going to be the big campus celebration and watch party on Sunday. And I know we got some tentative plans to all be involved in that as well. So what a cool 2 or 3 days.
Yes, no doubt. And we, yes, that is tentatively the plan. If Boise State were to find a way to win on Friday night, that we would do something live with you, me, and Johnny, hopefully right after the selection comes out on Sunday. So we got a lot of live shows, a lot of things going on, and it's gonna be one of those weeks, Prater, that just seems like it creeps by. At least it's a Friday game, not a Saturday game. One less day to have to wait. But I do want to thank a couple of our sponsors real quick. Western Collective, our studio sponsor. Make sure you pick up a Horseshoe Golden Ale or an Orange Chaos Seltzer. They're available at Albertson Stadium on Friday night. Extra Mile Arena tomorrow night. We got Boise State hoops tomorrow night against Utah Tech. That'll be you can check that out as well. Golden Ale, the Orange Chaos Seltzer, available at Albertson Stadium, and a portion of the proceeds go to benefit the Horseshoe Collective, helping the student athletes at Boise State. So make sure you check them out. Our title sponsor, RoePaint.com. I think Andy Rowe is going to join us a little later. ROEPaint.com. Check them out. Andy Rowe, RoePaint.com, our title sponsor. All those concrete coatings, interior, exterior painting. Perfect time to schedule for the winter or spring. Check them out at RoePaint.com. Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. There's a branch pretty much on every corner, with the easiest, that mobile eBranch online banking right there in your smartphone. Check them out, Idaho Central Credit Union, again online, ICCU.com. Matt Boucher Real Estate, he is now part of the Boise State home team. He's stepping up his investment even more. If you're liking what you're seeing from Javen Buchanan, 28 points, 24 points the last 2 games down there in the tournament, you can thank Matt Boucher and Travis Hawks and some of these boosters that ponied up the NIL money to get Javen Buchanan and Dylan Anderson here. So they won't take credit for it, but they should. Matt Boucher Real Estate. Check them out. The number 1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley is Matt Boucher and Boucher Real Estate. And again, online, BoucherRealEstate.com. Ridley's Family Markets, ShopRidleys.com. Check them out. Locations across the Treasure Valley, across the state of Idaho, across the surrounding states. You can get up to 40% off using that Skip app. ShopRidleys.com. You can find a location near you. And again, we appreciate one of our many sponsors here, Ridley's Family Markets and ShopRidleys.com. Mike Prater, you wrote a tremendous column in the BroncoNationNews.com site. It'll be going out in the daily email for subscribers here shortly on Spencer Danielson and the turnaround that he has done since taking over this job. Ironically enough, the dates line up where he was named the head coach on December 3rd last year, and December 3rd tomorrow, Mike Prater, I would expect him to be named the Mountain West Coach of the Year. I think Barry Odum is going to get some love, maybe a random vote for a Jay Norvell, what they did this year, but I think it'd be a pretty big upset if Spencer Danielson is not the Mountain West Coach of the Year, which, believe it or not, Brian Harsin never won Mountain West Coach of the Year, and Andy Avalos won it once. So this will only be the second Mountain West Coach of the Year award in the history of the Mountain West for Boise State if he were to win it. But the dates would line up exactly the year to the day that he was named the permanent head coach. He could be named the Mountain West Coach of the Year. And I know you went back, way further than that, looking at just the rise and the breaks and things going back, to the 90s. And you've counted it 385 days, obviously, since the whole stuff went down with Andy Avalos and him being named interim coach and what he has done and just the feeling around this program. And he's 14-2 as the head coach. And as I said, likely to win Mountain West Coach of the Year. And people want to say, oh, it's, Ashton Jeanty and all this. Well, Ashton Jeanty wouldn't be here if Spencer Danielson wasn't here. So I think certainly the players deserve a lot of the credit, but it starts at the top with Spencer Danielson in terms of why this team is where they're at right now.
Oh, absolutely. And it's amazing to think. I challenge anybody to find me a more successful 385-day coaching window for me, especially for a brand new football coach, a first-year football coach. Find me a more successful 385-day period in terms of what's done. There's probably a lot of stories out there that can match what Spencer Danielson has done, but in terms of him taking over from a locker room that was divided, a locker room that was lacking communication, a locker room that was lost because, unfortunately, Andy Avalos just couldn't get the job done. And all of a sudden, Spencer Danielson works on roster retention and immediately starts winning football games and finished last year 3-1, and then goes to work in the offseason to rebuild and then hiring Dirk Cutter. So many different buttons that he's pushed to make this football program successful. And then to put Dirk Cutter and Ashton Jeanty into this, into this beautiful bubble to go off and win football games. His mandate to Dirk Cutter, we're a run-first football team. We have Ashton Jeanty take advantage of that, and that's exactly what's happened. I think the coaching, the X's and O's, the commitment to this community, the vibe, everything. He's checked 10 out of 10 boxes in terms of success. It's been one of the most, if not most successful, 385-day coaching runs in the history of college football. He's got a big game to complete the deal, and if he can complete the deal on Friday and then get to the CFP, get Ashton Jeanty to New York, which is going to happen. He's going to be in New York. That's going to happen. And it doesn't matter if he wins the Heisman Trophy or not. The fact that Spencer Danielson has put this football team and certain individuals in a position to do what they've done has been spectacular, and he deserves all the praise. He should win that award tomorrow by a landslide. Anybody that's not voting for Spencer Danielson as Coach of the Year, and I don't know who votes for it. I don't know if it's media or fellow coaches. If it's not unanimous, that's ridiculous.
I voted. I was one of the panelists this year that got to vote, so he had my vote for sure. The thing that I think is cool, too, for Boise State fans, Mike Prater, at least in the near future, is you don't have to worry about Spencer Danielson leaving. I'm not saying he's never going to leave. Obviously, he doesn't have the ties here that some of the other coaches have had in terms of being a former player here and things like that, but it almost seems like he's more tied to this university than in his 8 years here and what they gave him and the rise from GA and everything he says. And sure, if somebody offered him $10 million and he's making one here or whatever, money talks at some point, but I really get the sense like he would love to build this thing and be here long term. And I don't think, at least in the near future, that should be something Boise State fans have to worry about.
100% agree. 100% agree. Now he's going to have to go out, not to get too far ahead of ourselves. He's going to have to go out and do it next year without Ashton Jeanty and Dirk Cutter. And I think next year is going to be so much different, and it's going to be a monster prove-it year for Spencer Danielson. But I agree with you. I kind of gotten myself in trouble by thinking Brian Harsin was going to stick around for a long time at Boise State, and he chased money and it didn't work out for him. I'm sure Spencer Danielson is aware of that and knows that. He's going to be a lot more picky, but I think he is more suited for this community, more suited for this program, more suited for Jeremiah Dickey. And I think that Spencer Danielson is here for the long haul, no doubt about it.
And on the flip side, Barry Odom's getting his name thrown around for West Virginia, for Purdue, for some of these openings out there. That's going to be a story. I don't know if he's, behind the scenes negotiating or talking to them, or if that's going to be a distraction or what. But Barry Odum, I think a lot of people think probably won't be back at UNLV next year.
We thought that last year, and he came back. But ultimately, Barry Odom is going to leave. And if he left, I would suspect he's going to leave after this year. This could be, his last game, or a Friday. I suppose he could stick around for a bowl game if he wins. He's certainly going to try to go off on a CFP run. But Barry Odom's days at UNLV, again, I was shocked that he stuck around this year, for this season. So we love Barry Odom. He's become kind of a friend of the show, and I think that dude has brought so much to that program. He's brought so much to this conference, and he's been so much fun, and I love the way he coaches, and I love the way he builds these football teams. I'm a big fan, and that's going to be a sad day when he leaves the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah, he deserves. Like I said, if Spencer Danielson's the runaway, then Barry Odom should be the runaway second. I mean, with what he has done this year, backing up last year, a lot of people thought it's just not sustainable. It was a 1-year type of thing, and to back it up with 10 wins and to have their 2 losses be, in overtime to Syracuse, and then a close loss to Boise State. I mean, Barry Odom has UNLV 1 win away from the college football playoff. It's pretty crazy. Especially with the quarterback nonsense. I mean, he created the biggest headline of the entire football season when Sluka left, and that was the story of the season for a week. And all of a sudden his starting quarterback bails, and you wonder what's going on. And then here comes the backup, and how's that going to be treated in the locker room, and what's going to be the collateral damage with something like that? Barry Odom just didn't even flinch, man. He just went back to work and got this football team back on track, and they're playing great football right now. This is probably a topic for the offseason, but it just kind of got me thinking. I mean, you mentioned Spencer Danielson, his salary, just all the investments they made to the assistant coaches. Like, what do you see? I mean, the North End Zone project will be a big part of this, kicking off in January. But and maybe we just get a short thought now and keep this discussion going in the offseason. But how does Boise State capitalize off this season? What can they do moving forward here in the immediate future in terms of budget? Full-time positions. I have no idea. I'm just, brainstorming here, but we've talked forever about if Boise State could have capitalized better off some of those first and second Fiesta Bowls, if Jeremiah Dickey were here a decade ago, where they would be. I know it's one season, it's one thing, but with what you have and the momentum you have here with what Ashton did and this team, and where they're at, and maybe again got to win Friday, and maybe this all changes if they lose Friday. But it would seem like whether it's if you want to just keep pushing that envelope, keep pushing it forward, infuse some more cash in this thing, and continue to raise the coach's salary pool on the assistants and do what you can here. But it would seem like that the time is ripe here if Boise State can continue to invest in this to keep this train rolling. Yeah, and I hate to give you this answer, but I kind of just have to keep doing what they're doing, because I think they're doing a pretty good job of that stuff. And you're right, it's time to jump, it's time to capitalize. But this offseason is going to be so weird in terms of the new rules. NIL is going away, guys, and the word revenue sharing is going to replace NIL, and they're going to be mixed, and it's going to be weird. Roster caps are coming. So you have to start paying players now. You have to start sharing your revenue with players internally within the athletic department moving forward. And that could be anywhere from, $2 to $22 million, depending on what the athletic department. Roster caps are coming up. Walk-ons are going away. Right now, Boise State gets 85 scholarship guys and 115 football players. Next year, they're going to get 105. That's the cap, and they have to pay them all. They're going to have to just do a lot of work just to keep up that way, BJ. No doubt about it. What did you make? And again, I want another topic for later, but probably a fair question since they brought it up twice on the broadcast. I went back and listened to it. But speaking of assistant coaches, Nate Potter kind of got leaked that he might be the next guy, or at least Dirk Koetter said he believes he's ready to take the reins. The first reference was kind of a little bit vague and not official. It was kind of like he expects him to or wants him to. And then the second time he said he's ready to hand off the reins or something to Nate Potter. I don't think that's a huge surprise to any of us. We all thought it would be either Matt Miller or Nate Potter. I know I talked on your guys' show on Friday just about his lack of QB experience, what that would be, and if they'd go find a quarterback coach or what it would be. But what do you make of Tim Brando? And I know sometimes those guys get stuff they're supposed to say, not supposed to say, and who knows if he slipped or if Dirk Koetter said the wrong thing or what came out. But it sounded like, based on the broadcast, that the plan is in motion for Nate Potter, who sits right next to Dirk Koetter in the box on game day to take over as the next OC. Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, in Spencer Danielson, we trust, right? But that's a curious one. We know that Dirk Kutter's gone. We've reported that on Sports Talk several times, and I know you've brought that up as well. But Dirk Kutter's gone. That's not going to
barring one more change of mind, and I suppose anything's possible, but at this point, Dirk Cutter is 100% gone. And in terms of, there's a reason why Nate Potter is attached to Dirk Cutter's hip, whether it's in the press box during a game, whether it's in practice. Grooming is probably not the right word, but Dirk Cutter is mentoring, maybe is a better word in terms of that kind of stuff. And if Dirk Cutter believes in that, if Spencer Danielson believes in that, that's pretty strong endorsement. I'm not sure. I mean, I got some curiosities about that, just in terms of the experience and the vibe that you get from Nate Potter. Great dude. But an offensive lineman, local dude. I'm not sure how much of a play calling experience he has. Well, he has a little bit, but what kind of creativity does he have? I think it's going to be a completely different team next year, maybe even more of a passing team. Maybe Malachi Nelson, if he stays. And then don't forget, guys, the transfer portal opens up, I believe, a week from today. So we're going to be a week from today. We're going to be having a completely different conversation about a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So it's going to be different. I'm a little bit cautious about that one. A little bit curious about that one. But we'll see how that one plays out. But Dirk Cutter's gone. And who's going to be Boise State's offensive coordinator next year? I don't know. Who's going to be Boise State's quarterback developer? Because that guy's not on the staff right now. In terms of Malachi Nelson or Maddux Madsen, he's not on the staff right now.
Yeah, the two interesting. I don't know if you saw this one over the weekend, but Deontay Thornton, a backup corner, announcing that he's transfer. Why would you not wait till after the championship game?
I don't know. I don't know.
Ring. I mean, even if you transfer, you stay for the championship game. I think you at least get a ring or get to be part of that with your teammates. I thought that was a very odd timing for Deontay Thornton now to say he's transferring, and maybe that was something where he already talked to the coaches and he is sticking around, but he is transferring after the season. I don't know. Very odd.
Yeah, I agree. There. I thought that was very odd.
And then they've lost three recruits to Power 4 schools within the last week. They lose a quarterback to Georgia, a running back to Missouri, and then a edge rusher, I believe, a defensive player to USC. I assume it's just cash and NIL money, and they're coming in with bigger offers. But with the success that Boise State is having, going to the college football playoff, and if you're a running back and you're seeing what Ashton Jeanty is doing, maybe winning the Heisman, just kind of a weird couple of days losing some recruits. Maybe that's just the new age of college football, like I said, with the money that's probably getting thrown at that quarterback from Georgia and Mizzou and all this, and they're tripling the NIL because don't forget, Spencer Danielson doesn't promise you a penny as a freshman, and maybe that's eventually going to come back to really bite them in this, but a little odd to lose 3 recruits when you're pushing forward for a top 10 ranking this week. Yeah,
it really is. It really is. And I don't think Spencer Danielson's going to lose an ounce of sleep over any of them. He's been very open in public in terms of, the comment about, I'm not going to give an incoming freshman. He didn't say I'm not going to give an incoming freshman money, but, you got to come in and earn it. We're not going to give you a bag of cash just to come here. You've got to earn it. And I respect that. And Spencer Danielson, on top of that, has said several times in press conferences that you've been there, BJ, where he said, you know what, if he doesn't come here, that's great. There's a million different places to go play college football. We're different. And I need different people to come to Boise State. So when somebody leaves Boise State, I don't think Spencer Danielson even bats an eye. I don't think he goes, crap, I lost that quarterback. It's like his mind is, well, apparently he wasn't a good fit for us anyway. Let's go get next. And that's kind of how Spencer Danielson responds to that kind of stuff. And if there's guys out there chasing money and making decisions based on money, you probably don't want to come play for Spencer Danielson anyway.
And they went and got Cam Camper in the transfer portal, and they went and got, Banks and Irby and some of these guys. So, I mean, the way it is now, you can go get a guy somewhere and find a way to plug holes, I guess, if you need to. And that's certainly there will be a lot of them, and we'll talk about that moving forward. I do want to spin this forward with you for the final 5 minutes and talk about this UNLV matchup, Mike Prater. But first, I want to thank a couple more sponsors real quick. Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game. Check them out, thespateam.com. Snake River Pool and Spa. Locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. Been around since 1978. They're part of the Boise State home team. Check them out online, Snake River Pool and Spa. Our friends at Lithia Ford of Boise finished up their 72-hour sale at 6 o'clock last night. Hope you took advantage of that, but they still got some great deals and specials going on. And as that weather gets colder and that gets icy and snowy, make sure you have an all-wheel drive vehicle from Lithia Ford Boise. You can go online, lithiafordboise.com, view all their various vehicles, whether it's the F-150, all the great options they have. Then you go in, test drive a couple. You've already done your research, and you're on your way in no time. So check them out online. Support one of the biggest supporters of Boise State athletics, Lithia Ford of Boise, and Bronco Nation News at Lithia Ford of Boise. Taco Bell, they're a huge supporter of ours as well. TacoBellWorks.com. They are hiring. So if you're looking for a job, they have a little table with all the paperwork and stuff right when you walk in any locally owned Treasure Valley Taco Bell location. You can get more information online, TacoBellWorks.com. But free food while you work, half your wages the next day after your shift. Great promotional opportunities. So highly recommend the fine folks over there at Taco Bell. And transportation compliance service, transcomservice.com. Check them out, transcomservice.com. If you're looking to get into the trucking industry, highly recommend them. They're a locally owned based company here in the Treasure Valley, helping folks all over the world. So highly recommend transportation compliance service, whether it's a DOT, overweight, all the permits and things you need to get out there towing that first load in no time. Check them out, transcomservice.com. All right, Mike Prater, as you mentioned earlier, unique matchup here with UNLV. Boise State, by the way, 4-3 in the Mountain West title game in history. They've got the wins in 14, 17, 19, and 23. They have lost basically every other odd year. I shouldn't mention this, but 18, 20, and 22 heading in here to 2024. Obviously, UNLV's only second appearance. Did lose 44-20 last year to Boise State, but third year in a row, Mike Prater, in the seventh appearance in the last 8 years for Boise State in the title game. The fifth time in the last 8 years Boise State has hosted this championship game. But how about this? This is the first trip to Boise for UNLV since 2016. And with the way the schedule has worked out, the unbalanced schedule, COVID, all this stuff, UNLV has not been to Boise since 2016. It's only their second trip to Boise in the last 12 seasons, dating back to 2012. You had Boise State during this stretch go to UNLV in 2011, 2015, 2019. They were supposed to go in 2020, but it got canceled because of COVID. Obviously went for the title game last year and then the regular season earlier this year. But Boise State, 8 straight wins against UNLV. Haven't lost, Mike Prater, to UNLV since 1976. They're 5-0 all-time at home against UNLV, 7-0 dating back to 2011 there. So the numbers, other than this one this year, have been pretty much one-sided as well. A lot of blowouts, a lot of Boise State wins over UNLV. The championship pedigree, the history of the two teams, like all the history that really means nothing in this game does point to Boise State.
Yeah, and I've been wondering about I didn't realize it had been that long since they had come to Boise, but I did some looking at in the last couple of days over the schedule, and they don't play a lot of cold weather games. So last year they played a November game at Air Force. I'm not sure how cold that was. The year before in November, I think they played at Hawaii and San Diego or something like that. UNLV hasn't played in a cold weather outdoor environment in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and maybe even longer. I'll come up with better stats on that moving forward. I'm not going to say that that's going to be the difference in one football game, and it's going to be cold. I don't think it's going to be miserable on Friday night. It's going to be in the 30s when the game starts. It's going to be in the 20s when the game finishes. I don't think there's going to be any crazy snow or any kind of stuff like that. We'll see how it shakes out with the weather coming in, but UNLV playing in a cold environment, they're not that good, or they certainly don't have a lot of experience playing in a cold environment, especially under Barry Odum. So Malik Williams, he doesn't scare me as a passer, but he's still one of the great runners in this entire conference behind Ashton Jeanty as a quarterback. So Malik Williams is good. Jackson Woodard is going to be scary. They're going to come loaded with that specific defense that they used to stop Ashton Jeanty in that first game at Allegiant Stadium. That worked. That really, really worked, guys. Can they do that again? And can Boise State counter and do something better? Or will UNLV come with something different in terms of their defensive scheme? That's going to be a fantastic chess game to watch Friday night.
They also have not played in very hostile environments on the road this year. They played at, San Jose, I think Hawaii. The one they played in was Oregon State. That was a sellout or close to it, but it's only about 35,000 in the new Oregon State Stadium. And that was a late night game. But this will probably be by far, Mike Prater, the most hostile, first kind of just super loud, hostile road environment they've played in all season as well. And it's nearing a sellout. This game is almost sold out already. There weren't very many tickets online when I went and looked, and I checked with somebody at Boise State, and they said, no, what you see, we're not holding any back. What you see is what's left. This game is almost a sellout. There's a chance Tuesday or Wednesday that UNLV might return some tickets and some more will pop open. But as of now, this game is trending towards being a sellout and being, in terms of in Boise, a record crowd for a Mountain West championship game. They haven't gotten more than 26,000 for one of these, and they're already, 35, 36,000. So if you're wanting to go to this game, there's literally a couple sets of 2 or 3 or 4 tickets left. Otherwise, you're going to be checking Ticketmaster, StubHub, paying more money for that. But I think that's a factor too, Mike Prater. You mentioned the weather and the cold, but a sold-out crowd, and you know how it is, Mike. Like, there's not a lot of corporate tickets bought for this game. If you're going to this game, you're a diehard fan that's going to be making a lot of noise. I would suspect the atmosphere for what's on the line, everything we've talked about the last 45 minutes, this could be an all-time atmosphere at Albertson Stadium, and I think that works in Boise State's favor as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to work because I'm not going to be worried about a sellout. And if it does sell out, I don't care. If it doesn't sell out, I don't care. I do know that there's not going to be 10,000 empty seats in that stadium like there has been for past Mountain West Championship games, and that's always kind of been a big bugger around here in terms of, you got to rally. I understand how difficult it is to get people in there for a championship game and these kinds of conditions, the weather, but this one is different. And there's going to be, whether it's 34, 35, whether the students get their whole 5,000, I don't know. But if they come up 1,000 short for whatever reason, or there's some pockets in the corners for whatever reason, I don't care. It's going to be the most festive championship environment in the history of that stadium. And it's going to be loud. It's going to be different. It's going to play a role in this football game because, as you said, UNLV has not played in anywhere crazy. They have not played anywhere in terms of the weather, the elements, everything but the X's and O's favors Boise State in this game. And I'm not saying the X's and O's don't, but UNLV will have a say in that. The rest of it, they're going to have to battle hard, and it's all advantage Boise State. So I like that setup going into this game on Friday.
Well, we bring in our man Andy Rowe here, and he's going to we'll share one thought before we say bye to Mike Prater here as he gets ready for Idaho Sports Talk. But Andy, first of all, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. How you guys doing this morning?
We're doing great. You become one of my favorite follows on Twitter, by the way. I just love your snark and some of your comments and things. It really is awesome. We need to have a daily segment where we just pull one of your tweets or something. But Mike, we can get both your take on this, but Mike, as we kind of say goodbye to you, just your final thoughts on this matchup, and not necessarily asking you to predict on a Monday what you think happens, but only a 3.5 point spread in this game. I don't know what Boise State fans did to Brett McMurphy. He just seems to be really against Boise State for whatever reason, but he has predicted in his bracket projections this week that UNLV will win the game, which again, 3.5 point favorite, you're not going on a huge limb there, but just what is it's been such a special season. It's all set up, but you got to win on Friday. What's just your final on a Monday, your final thoughts here on this matchup?
Yeah, first of all, the line, I hadn't seen that. When it opened on Friday night or Saturday morning at our boys at Circa, it was 6.5. So if it's dropped from 6.5 to 3.5, that's a very interesting number. Certainly, I thought it would drop when it was first announced by Circa. That was the biggest favorite of all the championship games, and you knew it was going to move, but go from 6.5 on Friday night or Saturday morning to 3.5 today, that's a big number, and it always makes my brain twist and be curious as to why. What do the smart people down in the desert think here? But I think all that we just talked about, all the different advantages for Boise State, all the different the weather, the crowd, all the different intangibles. They're going to favor Boise State in this game, but it's going to come down to really Jackson Woodard and Ashton Jeanty, and if Ashton Jeanty can be more effective than he was in that first game in Vegas. And I think this is one of those tough environments that Ashton Jeanty can thrive in. Not that Jackson Woodard can't, and it's going to take more than Jackson Woodard to stop Ashton Jeanty, but I just like the way Ashton Jeanty's been playing lately. I think he's so motivated and got that internal drive. It's almost like he's putting an entire community on his back right now. He seems to be healthier. That left arm doesn't seem to be much of an issue. He's got a little bit of an ankle tweak right there, but he's been beat up for a month, and he's still gutting and grinding and doing things. Ashton Jeanty's the difference in this football game.
And I'm going to say this, but I don't want to get people's hopes up too much, Mike Prater. I'm not saying he is playing. I'm not saying maybe it's even 50-50 at this point. But just to respond to Wild Bill's tweet here about Tubner likely being out, my understanding is this guy is working 24/7, doing everything, if at all possible. I would say the chance is not zero. It is greater than zero. I'm not saying it's 50-50. I'm not saying he's playing. It's got to make sense, and it's got to be a situation where he's helping the team, not hurting the team. But I think there is a chance, might be 2%, but there is a chance, and he is working hard behind the scenes, that Alexander Tubner could somehow see the field on Friday, and that would be an emotional boost, if nothing else, Mike Prater.
In this game, in that matchup, with the way Malik Williams plays football and the way Ricky White, they got so many different weapons. I don't need Alexander Tubner back in pass coverage. I need Alexander Tubner to be a spy all over Malik Williams. I need him to be the tackling machine that he is. I'll take 70% of Alexander Tubner. I think it's critical that he's on the field for this game on Saturday night or Friday night, and I hope he's better. I don't have any inside information either. Sounds like you got a little bit better than I. I hope he can come back. This is the kind of X's and O's matchup where Boise State needs Alexander Tubner.
Yeah, and I would still probably say if I had to guess, he doesn't play. But I do know that it's not zero. He is working as hard as he can, and if there is any way for him to get out there, even in limited snaps, he is going to try to do that. He has not been ruled out to this point that I know of for this game on Friday night. So with that said, it's a good sign that he'll likely be back for the playoff, I would think, in a couple weeks, which is a big news, or the bowl game, whatever happens. But Andy, any parting words for your friend Mike Prater here?
Oh, I absolutely have parting words for my friend Mike Prater. Did you hear what he said about 2006 Utah? Now, you are correct. Utah was the one that broke that ceiling first. But remember in 2004, there was a little up-and-coming team behind Utah that also ran the table and was undefeated. So Boise State was on its way, but Utah was definitely the first one to do it with Alex Smith. And, man, that was a powerful team. That was cool.
Yeah, and the only phrase that I took exception to is breaking a ceiling, because I think Boise State was the leader in everything else. I mean, Utah broke the ceiling, and then Boise State a couple of years later just bull rushed through it and made it so much better and so much different. Utah's victory over Pittsburgh was nothing. Nobody remembers that. That's kind of why that doesn't come up. But yeah, Utah definitely broke the ceiling, but Boise State just smashed everything else. So those were both back-to-back important moments for the Group of Five, and probably set the standard for why we're having the conversation we're having right now. Boise State, UNLV, whoever it is, somebody's going to be able to compete for a national championship. It's taken us 20 years to get here, guys. Let's enjoy this wonderful week.
Prater, what do we got on Idaho Sports Talk today?
We're going to just a lot of the same conversations here. We got to spin with Johnny Ballgame, and we got to figure all that kind of stuff out and kind of rehash the weekend, get ready for the rest of the week, chasing the same kind of guests that you are. We'll have press conferences with Cutter and Spencer Danielson and Big Noon Kickoff guys and Brock Heward and all those other guys, and we're going to have a lot of fun this week. So a lot of the same conversations, but let's make it fun and let's make it entertaining, and let's get after it, guys.
Well, we appreciate it, Mike. We'll be listening 3 to 6 today, and we'll see you down at the press conference shortly, sir.
See you guys. Have a good Friday, or have a good Monday. Good luck on Friday, Andy.
See you, Prater.
There he is, Mike Prater, and we have our title sponsor here, Andy Rowe, joining us as he does most Mondays here. You're in the office there. You're not traveling this week. You're in your office there, Andy Rowe.
Not traveling. December's a busy time for us, wrapping up the year. A lot of football still going on. So, yeah, happy to be here in Boise and ready for Friday.
Where are you at in terms of, and again, roepaint.com. Check them out, guys. You see the logo in the corner of the screen here. They do tremendous work, all your painting needs, and we'll be telling you about them as we do every day at roepaint.com. But check them out, support the sponsors, folks. And you got to, if you want to keep getting great sports takes from Andy Rowe, you got to support the sponsors here to make them want to re-up for another year here when we meet pretty soon. But you mentioned, just knowing this state, Andy, and knowing the history here and all this, like, I've been saying that's maybe the biggest game in the history of Boise State football. People want to argue with me on the first Fiesta Bowl. That's fine. I get it. I still think that's a little bit of revisionist history because you didn't know what would happen the next 2 decades after you won that game or if you won that game. But, I mean, if you want to say that's first, fine. But I don't think the second or third Fiesta Bowls do it for me. They didn't really mean much other than it being a bowl game. You win this game on Friday, you're in the final 8 probably of the biggest tournament there is to win a national championship at the highest level of college football. It means $7 or $8 million, to your school in terms of a couple million for each round. I think for me, you can make a very strong argument. This is the biggest game in the history of Boise State football. It's certainly second or third, and it's probably the biggest home game on the blue, maybe the biggest sporting event of any kind that's taken place in the state of Idaho in history. Where are you as a longtime Boise State fan? Just the importance of this game, the significance of it, and where it kind of fits in big picture here.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about biggest game ever, generationally, things change. I can think back to some big games, 94, 95, when we beat Idaho for the first time. At the time, that was such a huge game. The first Fiesta Bowl, I think, is going to take a very long time to supplant that because that was, for Boise, breaking through that ceiling. I mean, we were playing Oklahoma. Very few people gave us a chance. Oklahoma easily could have been playing for the national title that year, so that was huge. This is big, though, because you've never had access, so the sport has changed, And so you're right. They win Friday night, likely down to one of the 8 teams, and you're getting a first round on a neutral site. I mean, it's massive. It's massive. And I think, the fact that it sold out so quickly is showing that fans are excited about it. I don't think it's a lock by any means. It's going to be a game. We're going to get our money's worth. I'm more encouraged after hearing some of what you said. I pulled up UNLV's schedule after you said that. The only hostile environment that I can see that they've really faced outside of the high school stadium in Hawaii, pun intended there, was Kansas. I don't know what that game was like in Kansas early in the season. I don't know what type of environment, but for the cold weather, what's on the line, that's going to help us a lot. And I think we're going to need every advantage to get through this game. You got to figure those guys are hungry.
Yep. And as much as I would love to say that Kansas environment was great, it really wasn't. It was they're playing in a soccer stadium right now as they renovate their stadium. They only had about 20,000 at the game. It was okay, but they're going to come in Friday night and see something they haven't seen in a long time. I mean, again, they haven't even played in Boise in 7-8 years. It's pretty crazy to think about for
Didn't
that.
know that either.
Where are you at on the Ashton Jeanty Heisman race here?
It's his, man. He should have it. But what should happen and what's going to happen are two different things. So I get it that people are saying it's a long shot. It's going to take a lot, this, that, and the other. Never underestimate the power of, the power of getting a chance to make that statement. It was huge. BYU, if BYU lost that game, I might have become a little bit of a conspiracy theorist about how things are working. But, so they win that game. So Colorado's locked out. He's sitting. Ashton's playing right now. That is an advantage. You got to think about Ashton's opportunity for the trophy, what this means for the team. He didn't have his best outing the last time that he played. I don't think it's over yet. I think the media wants to tell us that it should be Travis, but I think there's a lot of guys. Remember, there are former Heisman voters or Heisman winners that are voting on this. So I know there's the Dion hype train, all that, and Travis is a great player. Nobody's saying that. It's just, it's not the same. It's not even close. And of course, I'm a Boise State fan, but just as a sports fan, what he has accomplished, what he could potentially accomplish. We had family visiting. We took all our family to the Oregon State game, and they were asking what to expect. I said, this could be a close game. We could lose, or it could be a blowout. I don't know what to expect, but I said, here's the one thing. Ashton Jeanty is going to go into the top 10. If he has a good game, top 5 all-time receiving yards. So we're sitting up there, and I'm announcing, who he just passed, names like Marcus Allen are coming out, and that, Donnell Pumphrey and one escapes me. Anyway, I mean, you saw it, the name after name that he kept passing. So It's very exciting. Not impossible that he couldn't have. I don't think he's going to get to Barry's record, but I think he could have a 200-yard night. Depends on the holes that get opened up for him.
And wouldn't that be something too, to go into the Fiesta Bowl or whatever in 3 weeks, needing 100 and something yards to pass Barry Sanders and throwing that into the mix and all this. The game itself, how you've been very outspoken, and mostly in a joking way, but about the Boise State secondary and some of their struggles this year, going up against Ricky White and some of the receivers and the passing game at times from UNLV. How concerned are you, Boise State's defense for this game against UNLV, and what is just your feeling overall in this game?
I'm very concerned about that part of the game. I don't think you can watch this team and not be. That's obviously where we've had a lot. But we also had an explosive run that Oregon State ripped off 2 plays after the fumble. So, I guess what you have to come back to is, who is this team and what have they shown us? What they've shown us is they will bend, they won't break. They will let those explosive plays go, but they don't always end up with touchdowns out of them. They're holding them to field goals. So we can't get into a brawl where it's a low-scoring game. Our offense has to be lighting up the scoreboard. And if our offense is lighting up the scoreboard, I think our defense will do the things that they need to do. But I thought it was interesting over the weekend. You had a corner transfer out. Announced he was transferring out before the game even. And then you had JUCO get offered. So that Boise also knows there's issues there that they got to get it resolved. Every team playing us knows that's our soft spot. So it comes down to game planning. What game plan are we going to put in to stop that from happening and make them earn it on the ground? And, our line – that's where our strength is. Can we keep them out of the air, or at least limit what they're able to do to us in the air?
Oh, it's going to be fun. I can't wait for Friday night. It's going to be a long week getting to Friday night, but I know you got a lot going on at rowpaint.com, Andy. For folks that are looking for interior, exterior painting projects, I know the winter is a good time to try to sneak in some of those interior projects, but what should folks be, alert for and paying attention to, and the services and things that you guys are ready to provide for them at rowpaint.com?
One thing I keep hearing that a lot of people don't realize is how much we do in concrete. Of course, we do the one-day coatings, but we do a lot of concrete polishing as well. We do all sorts of different types of concrete coatings. So if you have a business, whether you're commercial, industrial, we've got a solution for just about every concrete surface, no matter what type of activity you're doing over the top of it. So I would say that's probably the one thing that we're working on doing a better job of educating everybody about is when it comes to concrete, we have a fully functioning concrete coatings business within the business. We got guys with, decades, over 4 decades of experience running it. So yeah, we can do anything for you, your business, give us a call. And yeah, that's what we got going this winter.
roepaint.com. Again, 208-991-0567. But I highly recommend visiting the website and get more information on there. And again, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics have done our back patio, our garage, and at our previous house, and we just absolutely loved it. And they can do the same great work for you guys as well. Check them out, roepaint.com, our title sponsor, Andy Rowe. Andy, appreciate your time as always, and hopefully we'll see you Friday night at the game.
Thanks for the plug. I actually got to use my plug this week. I thought I was going to have to use it to tell everybody to go to the game, but we got a sellout. So we will be there Friday night. Go Broncos.
Appreciate it, Andy. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, BJ.
There he is, Andy Rowe, roepaint.com. We appreciate him for jumping on. Our man Nathan Carroll is going to jump on in just a second. We're going to get Nathan's thoughts on football, but also basketball. The net rankings are out. We'll talk a little bit of basketball with Nathan ahead of the game tomorrow night. So we're keeping the show rolling for a little bit longer. Don't go anywhere. Do want to thank a couple more sponsors. The Blue and Orange Store. Check them out, theblueandorangestore.com. You need some Ashton Jeanty gear? Well, they got it for you at the Blue and Orange Store. Online, theblueandorangestore.com. You can go into the second floor of the Boise Town Square Mall. All the new Ashton Jeanty gear available at the Blue and Orange Store. Coming up in January and February, if Jackson's, if Boise State basketball scores 70 points, which will be happening pretty often probably, considering they're averaging well over 80 points a game, you can get a hot dog and a soda for $2 at Jackson's. $2 for a hot dog and soda at Jackson's. And this Friday night, I know you guys would love to see it. If Ahmed Hassani can get that sack on Friday, you get a 91-cent coffee or fountain drink next Monday at Jackson's. We appreciate Jackson's, one of our sponsors here at Bronco Nation News. Lean Feast, check them out as well. Speaking of food, leanfeastmeridian.com. I am over 18 pounds down now. I think it's 18.2 in the last a while since I started in October, I think it was, but we're approaching 20 pounds down, and a large reason is Lean Feast. Eating healthy, leanfeastmeridian.com. Check them out, 10,000 plus combinations, all the various combinations. I saw, football team, basketball team, they're the Tyson Degenhardt, Ashton Jeanty, they got NIL deals. They got deals with your favorite teams, your favorite players. So get fueled up and eat the same meals that the teams are eating. Leanfeastmeridian.com. It's right there at Eagle Road and Ustick and Meridian. They now deliver anywhere in the Treasure Valley. So you can go online, leanfeastmeridian.com, and you don't even have to go into the store. Leanfeastmeridian.com. Our friends at mysignatureroofing.com, check them out as well. Signature Roofing, locally owned roofing company, been around for more than 20 years, covering our community, is Signature Roofing, and they're sponsoring our speakpipe.com/BNN voice inbox. We're always taking your voicemails, and I believe later this week on Wednesday or Thursday, our man Jaden Finch has created a wheel, and we're going to give away the gift cards to the Blue and Orange Store from Signature Roofing for those that left a post-game voicemail for the last couple of games. We've got a couple gift cards to give away. We'll do that later on this week. But again, Signature Roofing, covering our community for more than 2 decades, whether it's a re-roof, a repair, free inspections, estimates, all that great stuff. They can help you out. Check them out. I don't know if the inspections are free. The estimates are free. Check them out, mysignatureroofing.com. And again, get a voicemail in at speakpipe.com/BNN. We'll play it on the air, and we're giving away gift cards for some of the better ones, and that is from Signature Roofing, covering our community. Quick update on Riley and Rid. That show is going to be Wednesday at 6:30 this week with the basketball game tomorrow night. Riley and Rid typically is tomorrow. That is going to be Wednesday at 6:30. Riley and Rid live from the James Kitchen and Bar, and that will lead into Ball Talk with Johnny and Sanford at 8. So 6:30 for Riley and Rid on Wednesday, 8 o'clock for Ball Talk on Wednesday. And don't forget, been telling you, but Friday, we are going to be live on the Blue. We don't get to go in there during the regular season with the contractual obligations, but Mountain West Championship game is a whole different deal. So the Bronco Nation News pregame show live from the Blue inside Albertson Stadium Friday at 3 o'clock. We will take you up until the 5 o'clock Fox show. Then you can just switch over and watch that. So Kent Riddle, Brad Bedell on the Blue, some other former players, guests, going to be a ton of fun showing you the warm-ups, the scene on the Blue for the conference championship game on Friday at 3 o'clock. So don't, make your plans, whether you're in the tailgate, whether you're at home, wherever, but work 3 o'clock. Make sure, we'll be telling you about it all week, that you make plans to join us for the pregame show on Friday at 3 o'clock from Bronco Nation News for the Boise State game against UNLV. We bring in our man, Nathan Carroll. He's doing a tremendous job. He just sent me his basketball article. We'll get that posted here shortly as well. Nathan doing a tremendous job with Pro Football Focus. We hired him a couple of weeks ago, if you're not familiar with him, to start writing a couple of stories a week, looking at the numbers and things and analyzing stuff, and just does a tremendous job. Great follow on Twitter at Nathan_26_. And Nathan, always appreciate you jumping on, man. I thought it'd be a good time to kind of recap last week and look ahead to the championship, maybe sneak in a little basketball talk as well. How you doing, man?
Doing well, BJ. How you doing?
Doing great. Your lighting's much better today, man. You're coachable.
Yeah, the kid is awake, so we get to be out of the dungeon and up here in the nice little studio home office at my parents' place. So,
well, we appreciate you jumping on, man. We got a lot to discuss with you, but generally, I guess, what takeaways did you have from the Oregon State game?
Yeah, big one for me. I'll go two areas on this. First and foremost, I thought Boise State's offensive line had their best game in a long time. Oregon State's defensive line is not great. They're near the bottom of the nation in sacks. So we went into that game expecting Boise State's offensive line to play really well, and credit to them, they did. I thought Roger Carrion was really good, obviously coming back from injury. He didn't have a great game against Wyoming. I think had 3 penalties in that game. He played much better against Oregon State. Meanwhile, we also saw Mason Randolph back on the blue for the first time since his injury week 1 against Georgia Southern. He rotated in with Zach Holmes at center. I thought both centers, Zach Holmes and Mason Randolph, had really good games. And then just need to shout out Cage Casey. I mean, this guy's a monster. He's been Boise State's best offensive lineman all season. PFF graded him with a 90 offensive grade against Oregon State. The only other Boise State offensive player to hit a 90 grade all year in a game is Ashton Jeanty. Cage Casey, I don't know if he'll declare for the draft this year, but he is becoming an NFL prospect with what he's doing at left tackle. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Spencer Danielson brought it up in his postgame, but Marion McCoy had probably his best game as a Bronco, maybe going back to the Mountain West Championship game last year. Finished with an 83 coverage grade, was targeted 13 times and only gave up 5 receptions. Did have the touchdown that he gave up, but by and large, I thought Marion McCoy bounced back in a big way after a pretty poor Wyoming game. So those are my big takeaways from the Boise State game against Oregon State.
And I know it's early in the week, but what's your initial thought on this, how the matchups and the numbers look Friday against UNLV?
Yeah, we saw it once already this year down in Las Vegas, and Boise State was a slightly better team and came out with a 5-point win. One of the things I talked about in my preview article before that game, UNLV is really good in special teams. They force turnovers. They do the little things that well-coached teams do to try to create an extra possession to try to steal a score. And I thought Boise State did a really good job in that game of limiting special teams opportunities, limiting turnovers. And more than likely, Friday will come down to that again. My numbers have Boise State as about a 5 to 6 point favorite, right? It's very similar to what we saw down in Las Vegas. If you think of a punt return score or a blocked kick or an interception as stealing a score, I think there's a chance UNLV comes out with it. So I think by and large, Boise State just needs to continue to build on these last couple of weeks, particularly on the offensive line, playing a lot better. I thought the first UNLV game was Boise State's worst performance on the offensive line. I thought UNLV's defensive front did a really nice job. Hopefully with Randolph back and Carrion back, Boise State's offensive line can play a lot better. The other area that I think matters a ton is you go back and look at that UNLV game. Andrew Simpson had one of his best games as a Bronco. He's now back and healthy for Boise State. I thought he played really well against Oregon State as well. And Alexander Tubner had a really big game against UNLV. We don't know if he'll be back against UNLV. And if he's not, who can step up and play in Tubner's place, because he was a big part of the win against UNLV the first time.
And don't forget about Ashton Jeanty too. I mean, that was the game he got injured in. I think a lot of people are kind of forget. They're all pointing to, and I know it's a big talking point for all the UNLV media this week. lowest yards per carry, worst game of the season, all this kind of stuff. But that was the game where he got injured in. And even before that game, I remember seeing him on the, in the warmups wearing this big thing on his top of his hand, a little wrist kind of brace, and then gets injured on that hyperextended elbow or whatever it was, and has to go put that brace on, and still got to 128 yards or whatever it was. I know the 3.9 yards per carry weren't great, but I think UNLV is going to see a different Ashton Jeanty in this game too.
Yeah, I tend to agree. You could tell when he had that arm injury in the first UNLV game that he slowed down a little bit after that. It's one of those things you might see an elbow injury and think, okay, that shouldn't affect a running back when they're going to be running the ball. But you get injured in one place and it can affect your psyche. It can affect your mentality that you play with. I don't think it was by chance that when Jeanty gets hurt, he has his worst game of the season. I do expect a bit of a bounce back game from Jeanty. And look, I think the Broncos are going to feed Ashton Jeanty again. I would expect 30 or 35 carries in this game, lean on the run game, lean on the play action game. One thing that I will note, this is going to be UNLV's toughest road test this year. UNLV media has already been quick to point out that they're 6-0 on the road. 5 of those 6 wins were against teams with a losing record. Boise State's got one of the best home field advantages in the country, and UNLV has not played a game in an environment like this yet this year. I'm interested to see how UNLV responds playing in a tough road environment.
Yeah, no doubt. I mentioned that earlier in the show. I think that's a big time part of this. If it's a sellout raucous crowd on Friday and UNLV really hasn't come close to playing in anything like that earlier this season. The Houston game only had 20,000, 21,000 at the soccer stadium for the Kansas game. They did have 35,000, which is a sellout, I guess, with their new configuration at Oregon State earlier this season. But I can't imagine just that the crowd will be as amped and as loud and as into it as they will be. And then you throw in the cold weather situation as well if it's a little bit colder. So, yeah, that's certainly going to be an interesting one. I don't have a ton of time because I got to get down to basketball interviews here at 11, but I did want to get a basketball thought from you, Nathan. The net rankings come out, Boise State in a nice spot, 38. I was pleasantly surprised. I know that stuff changes a lot. I mean, if they only win by 5 tomorrow night, they could drop 30 spots. Like, the whole thing is crazy. I remember they were out of the top 100 or 140th or something last year, and then they went and blasted somebody by 40 points and they jumped 40 spots. Like, this early, it's very volatile. I get it. It's going to change a lot, but I was thinking they might be somewhere in the 100 range basically to start, and for them to start at 38, I thought was some respect at least, and puts them in a decent spot if they can start rolling off some wins.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with Boise State's placement in that as well. They're actually 1 spot ahead of UConn, who's the 2-time defending national champions. So there's a little bit of panic about the 5-2 start with a loss to Boston College. Boise State fans, relax. We're Boise State's in a better spot now than I think some fans are voicing or realizing. But yeah, one thing that's important to note about the net rankings is what's important is less about where you are and more about where your opponents are, because that determines what's a quad 1 game, what's a quad 2 game. Just as important for Boise State being 38th, Utah State was in the top 15, I believe. I know
14,
St. Mary's came in at number 25. Wrote about that in the coming article that's a big
Clemson
game.
was 18, so that Clemson game, even though it's a home game, that's a quad 1 win right now because Clemson's 18th, so that's big. And San Francisco is 52, so that's a quad 1 loss right now. And Washington State is 87, so I think top 100, that's quad 2 for a neutral site for Washington State as well. And then you mentioned St. Mary's being 25, so the 4. All the quote-unquote 4 top ones, and South Dakota State is 96, so that's a quad 2 win right now over South Dakota State. So the 5 kind of marquee non-conference opponents, at least right now, those are all looking like decent games.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be big in building the resume, is those teams being placed where they are. And not only that, with a team like Utah State being as high as they are, assuming that they stay near that high, which you already talked about, it's extremely volatile this early in the season. Most teams have only 7 or 8 games of data. So you throw in another data point, and that's going to be over 10% of their new resume. But if Utah State can stay a top 20-ish opponent in the net rankings, that not just becomes a quad 1 game, it's a quad 1A game, which is essentially taking quad 1 and taking the top half of those games. That's something that the committee has talked about in past years, is quad 1A opportunities are important. So big opportunities ahead for Boise State on the basketball front. I think this team is fine. You'll read about it in my article, but there's a few small tweaks that need to be made for this team to get back to the standard we expect for Leon Rice. And I think most of those fixes are extremely realistic to come in the next few weeks. So tomorrow against Utah Tech, a bit of a tune-up game before they take on Washington State and St. Mary's, which will be two of the bigger games for building their resume this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'll be very curious to see if Javen Buchanan moves into the starting lineup, if they like what he's doing and keep him there. I mean, I think him over Meadow, him over Anderson, they have some different options there with what they would want to do. He obviously had 28 and 24 points in the last two games down there in the Cayman Islands, and so how they continue to build the offense to fit his strengths, I think is going to be big as well. And yeah, Boston College, that was a bummer. Right after they I don't know why they came back and played a game on Black Friday, like 2 days later. That was just really weird. But they hurry back and play Dartmouth, one of the worst teams in the country, and lose. And so that's obviously not looking like a great loss anymore. But tomorrow night, 7:00 should be fun. It kind of helps everybody get one day closer to the football game on Friday. You got a basketball game to worry about tomorrow night, and we'll be, as I said, I'm going to hurry down and get Leon Rice here at 11:00, and then we'll have the football press conference, and looking forward to basketball tomorrow. Nathan, really appreciate your time. We'll get that basketball article posted. I know you wrote about Spencer Danielson as well. Maybe in 30 seconds or less, you can give us the take to your Spencer Danielson column and why folks should go read it.
Yeah, Spencer Danielson's a special coach. Ashton Jeanty is in conversations to be one of the greatest Broncos of all time, and he's probably not here if it's not for Spencer Danielson. So, as the season goes on, we focus on the players, we focus on the schedule, but now that we're coming to a close on the season, it's time to give Spencer Danielson his flowers. This has been a special season in Boise, and he deserves a ton of the credit for it.
Well, appreciate it. Can't wait to read your football preview and look at the numbers in this UNLV game coming up later this week. Appreciate the time and you jumping on, Nathan, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks, BJ.
There he is. Nathan Carroll does a tremendous job as one of our newest acquisitions here at Bronco Nation News. And before we go any further, I guess we should say happy birthday to the man himself, Ashton Jeanty. Today is Ashton Jeanty's birthday. So happy birthday, Ashton Jeanty. I believe it's the big 21. So big 21st birthday. Could be a big week for Ashton Jeanty, big couple of weeks here. If he can continue to play well Friday and get his team a championship and into the playoff, then who knows next week with the Heisman. But a 21-year-old Ashton Jeanty going maybe to New York the following week for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So good for Ashton Jeanty. Happy birthday to him. And again, that is 21 years old. I believe it's 21 for Ashton Jeanty. One more reminder, the Bronco Nation News pregame show for the Old Trapper Mountain West Football Championship will be live from the Blue inside Albertson Stadium Friday at 3:00. The regular season, we can't get in there for the home games, but Mountain West Championship is a different deal. So the BNN crew will be live from the Blue inside Albertson Stadium, 3:00 on Friday. So 3 hours before kickoff, we'll start the pregame coverage. We'll get you going with interviews, analysis, thoughts, a live look at warm-ups and things. And then at 5:00, we'll hand it over to the Fox pregame show. The Big Noon Kickoff show will be on the Blue as well, so we don't want to compete with that. We want everybody to get a chance to watch that. So we'll be live like 3 to probably 4:30, 4:45, and we got to be off the air before they take the air at 5. So hopefully you'll make your plans on Friday to join us at 3:00 live from the Blue on YouTube, on Facebook, on X for the Bronco Nation News pregame shows. We get you set for the Mountain West Championship game on Friday night, 6:00, Boise State, UNLV, the biggest game, as I'm saying, maybe in the history of the state of Idaho in terms of a game that's been ever been played on Idaho soil. It's a monumental game, millions of dollars at stake, a spot in the college football playoff at stake, and we're going to have coverage all week long here on Bronco Nation News. So going to head down and get some basketball interviews. We're going to have the press conference live at noon. Jaden Finch helping us out, going to get everything set up because I'll be racing over from basketball. But we will have the live Spencer Danielson press conference at noon today as we turn our attention towards the Mountain West Championship game. So come back at noon and join us. We'll have Jay Tuss tomorrow morning. We'll have basketball pregame show tomorrow night with the college football rankings coming out during the show. We'll have postgame show for basketball. Brad Bedell on Wednesday, Johnny Mallory on Thursday. We got both shows, Rid and Riley, and Ball Talk on Wednesday night. And Friday morning, Jay Tust and I, we got you covered every morning. We got you covered in the evenings. It's going to be a fun week as we get you set for the championship game. Boise State hosting UNLV on Friday. So hopefully this is the perfect time for you to jump in with a subscription. BNN 50 deal. You can use that promo code at the bottom of the screen. $50 gets you a 1-year subscription. And we hope all you guys will jump in for that. $20 off the usual rate for your first year. And you can read all of Nathan Carroll's work, Mike Prater's columns, my work. If there was ever a time to jump in and make sure you get your fix of Boise State coverage, it would be right now with a subscription to Bronco Nation News. So appreciate all you guys for checking us out. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Go support all of our great sponsors, including our title sponsor, rowpaint.com. And appreciate you guys. We will talk to you at noon for the press conference. And then Jay Tust and I will be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great day. Tell your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share our page. Like our page. All that good stuff. And go subscribe if you're able. We'll talk to you a little bit later. Bronco Nation News Live. Counting down 4 days to the Mountain West Championship. UNLV and Boise State. We're your place for nonstop coverage. Online at BroncoNationNews.com and the social media channels of Bronco Nation News. Have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon, everybody.